Stories number 1. Aita for not wanting my stepdaughter's sibling to live with us. I'm 33F and my husband is 35M, and he has a daughter who's 10, and she has a sister who's not my husband's kid who's 3. Their mother is an alcoholic. Last year we put her in rehab, and it helped. She came out, got a job, and started making a good life for her kids. 3 months ago his daughter called in the middle of night, saying her mom wasn't home, they hadn't eaten, and that they needed help. We went over there, and a few minutes later her mom came back drunk, and probably on other stuff as well. He put her back in rehab, and we've kept both kids. She just got out and has been talking about how she wants my husband to adopt her daughter as she feels she's going to relapse again, and she wants him to just take the kids after the adoption is finalized. My husband just agreed and didn't talk to me about it. When he finally talked to me, he said that it will be better for both of them if this happens, and the little girl already lives with us. I told him that he's not taking care of the 3-year-old, and that I am, and that even though I work from home someday, I have to go into the office, and it's very random, and I can't just drop her off with anybody, because I don't know their schedule. I also told him that we are having our baby, and I can't handle a baby and a toddler and a 10-year-old. I told him that's too much to handle. He said I could just quit my job and stay home until they all turn 5 or 6, and then go back to work. I told him if he wants to adopt her, he can do that, and I can go in full-time and make more than he's making and take care of everyone. He got mad and said he's going to adopt her whether I like it or not. I had talked to some people, and they said it's best for the little girl since she doesn't have family on her mom's side, and we don't know her dad, and that I need to suck it up or leave. So Aita, edit. If you all have asked questions, I will try to answer them, but the main question I keep seeing is what the plan with my bio kid is. The answer is I had planned to work and probably see if I could try to not go into the office as much, and my mom said if she's in nearby, she won't mind watching her, but the plan is not solidified, and if that didn't work, daycare. A lot of people asked why we can't take the 3-year-old to daycare. The answer to that is we brought her last year, and she screamed and cried, and I had to go pick her up early almost every day, and they said she might do better at home rather than there. I think she just likes to be around people she's comfortable with, and she knows us, so she's comfortable with us. People also asked where my stepdaughter goes sometimes after school care, but most times I'm able to pick her up. Someone also asked how the 3-year-old called, but to specify she didn't call, it was my stepdaughter who called us. Last thing, the 3-year-old is not my husband's kid, they are different races. Top comments. Commenter 1. Is the child's father not an option? I can understand how you feel about this situation, and it is grossly unfair and a huge imposition. However, this is one of those times in life where you should probably find a compromise. This is the sister of your husband's daughter. Your stepdaughter will not understand if you send her sister off to live God knows where, and under less than ideal circumstances. If you want stepdaughter to have a loving relationship with the child you are having, then let her continue her relationship with the sister she already has. Would your husband pay for a nanny? Maybe, even 2 nannies, so there is always coverage when you return to work and you won't have to take the hit to your career. And age, though it is very unfortunate that his ex didn't make a more mature decision and forego a second child, considering her addiction. Reply. The child's father is not an option. He doesn't know she exists, and he's just like her mother, and she doesn't know where he is. Commenter 2. Info. What about the 3-year-old's father or paternal grandparents? Also, why not just make your husband the legal guardian for now, in case mom gets her shit together? Why did he volunteer you? Reply. We don't know who the father is, so we don't know if he has family. I think they are still working out everything, but she doesn't think she's going to get her shit together, so she just wants him to take them permanently. Commenter 3. NTA. Him becoming a SAHD until the baby is in school sounds like an excellent compromise. He can be the one to take the career hit, since it's his idea to take in an unrelated toddler. Commenter 4. NTA. Your husband is. It may be the right decision for the kids, but he made it without, and then gave you an ultimatum. That a hard pass from me. I think it wouldn't take long before you became extremely resentful of the kids, and it will show, no matter what you try. I'm really sorry you're in this position. Personally, I'd be done. Update. Aita for not wanting my stepdaughter's sibling to live with us. So I've returned, and I wasted to address a few questions. Number 1, race does not matter to me. I wouldn't care if she was white, Hispanic, Asian, or Indian. The only reason I said that was people kept accusing my husband of being the father. Another thing, yes, I am pregnant. Last thing people kept asking is why our schedule now won't work, and this schedule is temporary, not permanent. If it was permanent, I would probably get fired. So I talked to my husband on Saturday and told him that I don't want him to adopt her. Of course, he asked why, and I told him my reasons, which are that I've already sacrificed a lot for this child, that I can't handle 3 children, especially with 2 that little, and who are probably going to want to be on me, and that this was never a part of the deal. He tried to argue that there was no deal, and I told him there was. When I married him, it was supposed to be 1 child that wasn't mine that I was supposed to take care of. He tried to explain that she's young and that she needs us. I told him that I get that, but that he has no plan for what will happen if he gets her. He tried to say I leave my job, but I told him again I'm not doing that. I told him that this would be a real deal breaker for me, and that I would be okay helping him get some form of custody of her as long as it won't affect me, and then I would want leave. He tried to say that they will need a mom, and what would we do with our baby, and I told him either 50-50 or I get full custody, and he can pay child support. He kept trying to say he was just trying to do the right thing, and that it feels like I'm punching him for that. And I told him I wasn't, but this would be where I draw the line, because I'm not doing or dealing with that. So he asked if I did divorce, would I be willing to watch his kids if he were busy, or at least hang out with them, as they are attached to me, and maybe let them come over to my house some weekends. I told him no to watching them, as that would have to be on him to figure out. I said his daughter could come to my house sometimes, but even then, he kept on saying I was punishing him for trying to help, and I told him that it wasn't on him to help, and I understand he feels like he's got to help her, but I said that she told you she would, you right, and you just said okay, and jumped with it, and never asked me. Then he went on trying to ask did I even like the little girl, and I told him that I do. But I'm tired of making sacrifices for her, and tired of having her clinging on me all the time, and told him that I can't deal with that. He got mad and started yelling, so I left and went by my mom's. He's tried apologizing, but my mother said to not go back as I would be unhappy there, and to leave that on him, and I can live with her, and until I find somewhere else, as she will be happy to watch my baby all day. So for now I'm going to try to talk to him and see what his plans are, and if he still doesn't have any, then we may get a divorce. Top comments. Commenter 1. NTA, even when you were telling him you would leave, he was asking you about childcare. He just showed you how he viewed you in the relationship, free childcare. While you are gone, do not agree to look after / help with the children. He needs to understand that adopting this little girl will be on him completely. Also get a storage locker and start to move your stuff out. Commenter 2. I laughed out loud when OP's husband asked if she would still babysit if they got divorced. This man does not get it at all. He keeps talking about how it is important to adopt the little girl, but he is continually making unilateral decisions. The thing that frustrated me the most about this entire story is that OP's husband was willing to adopt, but wasn't willing to do any of the work. OP was left to take care of 2 soon-to-be 3 children, and he didn't really do anything to make her life easier. When OP mentioned that it would be hard to work with 3 kids, he told her to quit her job. OP was absolutely correct in stating that her husband should quit his job, as she could make more money than him if she worked more hours. However, he didn't like that option, as it would mean he would actually have to take care of his own children. I wish OP the best, and hope that she gets full custody. I can see her husband trying to pawn off responsibility for his child with OP from the beginning, so it may be best if he isn't involved. Relationships are about compromise, but in this relationship, it has been changed to do as I say, not as I do. Commenter 3. Sorry, but is he slow? You want to leave him if he adopts the child, then he asks if you'll help take care of them if you divorce? He's spiraling because he wasn't expecting you to divorce him. He was trying to bully you into accepting. He won't go through with it because his only plan for the adoption was you to be the primary career. He has no other childcare options, hence why he wants you to quit your job. I'm thinking it's less of a do the right thing situation and more of a make my wife do the grunt work whilst I have 0 life change, but everyone thinks I'm a hero. Honestly, I'd leave that man regardless. Commenter 4. Your marriage is over. He will either keep trying to manipulate you into doing what he wants because he truly does not care about or respect your feelings, or he will let the child go and resent you. Then he will throw it in your face constantly. Either way, it's over. Get a lawyer and start a plan that does not include this marriage. Stories number 2. I thought my wife's cat hated me for 4 years. Now he's obsessed with me. I have questions. In 2020, I moved in with my then girlfriend, now wife. Along with our shared life came a shared menagerie. I brought my dog, Gemma. She brought 2 cats, Indy and Pico. I had high hopes that the animals would become some quirky Pixar-style blended family. I was a fool. Gemma was the sweetest, scruffiest, quietest old mutt you've ever met. The kind of dog who looked like she'd seen things but mostly just wanted a gentle chest rub and a soft place to nap. She loved cats, in a way that felt like she wished they were her pets. I've seen her gently lay down next to cats, with this hopeful look on her face. She never barked. She didn't snuggle, exactly, but she'd lie nearby, always quietly hoping the cats might someday love her back. She was the canine equivalent of a kid on the first day of school holding out a juice box like, "Friends." Indy, one of the cats, was a calico tabby with the emotional range of a bomb about to go off. Chaos incarnate. She hated the move, hated Gemma, hated everything really, except for my wife and, somehow, eventually me. For the first year I lived there, she refused to come down to the first floor. Eventually, she came around to me, but she never stopped treating Gemma like an unholy menace. Even once she started hanging out downstairs, she'd travel across furniture and windowsills like a tiny fluffy assassin avoiding pressure plates, just to avoid setting paw where Gemma might have breathed. Poor Gemma had to give up on her dream of having a cat buddy real fast after getting swatted undeservedly too many times. And then there was Pico. Pico is a large orange tabby with the emotional resilience of a wet loaf of bread. Anxious, clingy, and, this is important, he had absolutely no time for me. He was a sad fat boy who lived only for my wife. He didn't like me. He tolerated Gemma. He hated cuddles unless they came from his chosen human. If my wife closed her office door, he'd cry like the Romeo understudy in a high school drama class. He'd sighed, I mean like I was the guy she told him not to worry about. We had an understanding. I existed, and he pretended I didn't. So that was our house for years. Gemma trying to just exist peacefully with the dying hope the cats might one day accept her. Indy radiating murder vibes, or snuggling my head with begrudging affection. Pico ignoring me with great enthusiasm. It was an uneasy truce, but it held. 2 years ago, Gemma passed, peacefully, at 16. We were gutted. A few months later, Indy, who had slowly warmed up to me over time, decided I was her person. She got clingy. She'd caterwaul when I left. Sleep on my chest, my head, my back. Wherever she could drape her angry little body. Full gremlin energy, but affectionate. Recently, Indy's health declined. She had a worsening heart murmur, and about a month ago, we made the difficult decision to let her go gently. She was 17, we were devastated all over again. And then, immediately after Indy's passing, like within a few days, something shifted. Pico changed. Suddenly, the cat who had ignored me for 4 years became obsessed with me. He sleeps with me at night now. Rolls over for belly rubs like I'm some kind of feline massage therapist. He insists on being in my office all day. If I go back to bed, he climbs in and snuggles up like I'm the last patch of sunlight in the universe. He wants me to feed him now, and he'll ignore my wife, his actual person, to come bop my chair and demand attention. Then he purrs like a dying lawnmower and looks at me with the kind of absolute adoration usually reserved for cult leaders and those who open cans. We didn't change our routine. We didn't rearrange the house. My wife is still very much present and fully available for cuddles. But Pico is acting like I'm his long-lost soul mate, and he's making up for lost time. Which leaves both of us, me and my wife, completely baffled. I have several theories. Indy bullied him into keeping his distance, and now that she's gone, he's free to pursue this forbidden human romance. He's grieving, and somehow senses I'm grieving too. But it feels less like, let's heal together, and more like, rub my belly, grief monkey. This is a long con. He's softening me up for something. I don't know what. He's terrible at being a cat, so probably not murder. But definitely something. The shift has been instant and total. I feel like I'm living with a completely different animal. Nothing else has changed. My wife is still here. She is supposed to be his person. Now apparently I am. Has anyone else had a cat pull this kind of emotional U-turn? I feel like I'm living with a completely different animal now. I mean, I'm not complaining. He's a great cuddler and he's terrible at being a cat. And that's sort of charming in its own right. But I feel like I missed something here. Is this normal? Is this grief? Is he just now realizing I give excellent belly rubs? A glitch in the cat matrix? Or have I been a mark all along? TLDR, my wife's cat spent 4 years ignoring me like I was a piece of furniture that owed him money. Then our other cat passed away, and now he's obsessed with me. I have theories and concerns. Some of the comments. Somebody says cat can get cuddlier with age, treasure her. There may be some truth in what you say here, because Indy also softened with age. She went from napping sinisterly in remote corners of the house to becoming what we affectionately referred to as the 10-pound terrorist. She wasn't actually 10 pounds, but the name stuck. She would scream at me until I was properly bullied into the chair, couch, or bed she had selected for cuddling. It was like living with a tiny, affectionate dictator. So perhaps Pico has now learned this skill, and without Indy to contend with, has decided to adopt her tactics for himself. I think you've cracked this case wide open. And thank you. Sorrow and joy are deeply intertwined in our household. If you haven't already, I highly recommend The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, especially his section on joy and sorrow. It captures it beautifully. One commenter says Pico just misses Indy and reaches out. I desperately want to believe this, and you may very well be right. But I've been so suspicious of his motivations that it's hard to trust this sudden wave of relentless adorableness. It feels like it could be nefarious, or, at the very least, deeply selfish. Which, in all honesty, I respect. You get those belly rubs, peaks. If this turns out to be a fully coordinated emotional assault, I will be in awe of the long game. I do want to reinforce that it never really seemed like the cats got along, which is why I have a hard time believing he's grieving in any classic sense. Indy barely tolerated him any more than she tolerated Gemma. I once caught them sleeping on the same bed within inches of each other, and it was such a rare event it became a household breaking news. We discussed it all afternoon, like a panel of cable news pundits trying to fill airtime during an election cycle. To be fair, though, maybe Pico would have preferred a more peaceful, interloving household. I imagine he misses Indy in the way that the Stockholm hostages missed Generic Olsen. In the world of cats, the system of territory is very solid. Even humans are considered territory. My theory is, 1. Both cats viewed you as Gemma's territory. They don't challenge a larger animal on their territory, so they stayed away. 2. Indy must be the alpha out of the 2 cats. You became her territory once Gemma is gone. 3. Indy's gone. Now Pico gets to have you all to himself. I experienced something very similar between 2 cats that I got around the same time. The second cat became much more affectionate with me once the first one passed away. Reply. This theory actually makes a lot of sense to me. That said, the idea of Gemma being the alpha in any regard is objectively hilarious. She was the most passive dog imaginable. She was a literal peacemaker in her day. Not submissive, necessarily, but deeply uninterested in conflict. With other dogs or cats, her whole vibe was there's stuff to sniff. Why you stressing? Indy, she was absolutely the alpha. Or rather, not an alpha, a queen. The smallest in the house in size, but the largest of us all in personality. She ruled with an iron paw. Her domain included all of us. We affectionately called her the 10-pound terrorist. And Pico? He's definitely a little princeling. The soft, sourdough loaf-like, emotionally needy heir to the throne, now basking in the full light of attention. When Gemma and I first moved in, I was persona non grata to both cats. Indy appeared to warm up slowly over time, but Pico was obsessed with my wife in a way that bordered on the unhealthy. When I joke about there being an air of romantic competition between us, I'm really only half joking. The other half is projecting my own wildly inappropriate insecurities. That cat had zero doubts about his status as the favored son. I, on the other hand, was very much the unwelcome interloper, which is probably why all of this feels so confusing. In this house, I've mostly been considered spare human by all the animals, even my own dog, at times. My wife has always been the clear favorite. Is it because she is a soft, cuddly human with a sweet disposition who gently coos, soothing savage beasts? Perhaps. Is it because she's a soft touch who routinely feeds her 4-footed children from her plate? Absolutely yes. So, you're probably right. Maybe Pico hasn't abandoned his obsessive devotion to my wife. He's just realized he can now distribute himself a little more evenly. For our benefit, of course. Out of generosity. Like a benevolent lord bestowing affection upon his lesser subjects. Whenever my wife would leave for more than 24 hours, he'd come seeking a bit of affection. But it was always begrudgingly. He wouldn't cuddle, precisely. He'd just sit within arm's reach and give me a look that said, "You may pet me, fat man, but don't get any ideas." He wouldn't purr. The only sign he was accepting the interaction was the absence of tail twitching. And once he'd had his fill, he'd leave, casting one last baleful glance over his shoulder that clearly meant, "Tell no one of what happened here. If you do, I will deny it and end your bloodline. Outside of that, unless I was opening a can of tuna or holding a piece of chicken, I was not interesting to him in the least. Cats do not seem to do well with the concept that multiple cats can love multiple people. Multiple people may love one cat, sure, but not the other way around. It's cat math. It doesn't have to make sense. It just is. About the death of a cat, it really is hard. But in a subreddit like this, I know everyone here knows that pain intimately. And we all know it's worth it, for the years of laughter, weirdness, and love they give us. I can promise you, she most definitely was bullying. She bullied all of us. That was her love language. It was also her method of establishing her monarchy. She didn't gently coax me into cuddles. She would caterwaul and screech until I followed her to the chair or bed she had chosen for our shared comfort. She would occasionally go out of her way to surprise swat Gemma, just to remind her who ruled the realm. And if she realized Pico was even in staring distance, she would flip the entire fuck out. Indy was absolutely a bully. But she was our bully. In all seriousness though, I do hope this is the new normal. Pico is very squishy, and I like giving him belly rubs. If he pulls this rug out from under me, I will be absolutely destroyed. About the name Pico for an orange cat, I first read this as Orange Pico is a genius, and was both surprised and horrified. Firstly, no, he is not. He is absolutely terrible at being a cat. He refuses to climb on furniture. Chase a mouse? Never. We bought them a cat stand once. He never made it past the first level. His idea of playing with a toy is one swat, followed by existential fatigue. Is he capable of finding food once it leaves his field of vision? No. Does he turn his head to re-establish visual contact with said food? Also no. Then I realized what you actually wrote. And yes, absolutely it is genius. My wife is much smarter than I am, and she loves tea. Her staple? Earl Grey. Just kidding. It's Orange Pico. Somebody says maybe OOP is ill, and the cat picks up on it. Yes, I'm good. Just had blood work done recently. I'm currently working at in weight loss with my doctor. I appreciate the thought though. Update. It has been over a month since I posted about this situation, and I can tell you, I am slowly going mad. Many of you responded to that post, alluding to some version of the theory that Indy, our cat who recently passed, had claimed me as hers, and that she had kept the other cat. Pico, I thought I should share some pictures of him this time, from me. I have now come to believe this may be true, but not in the way you all thought. I think she was protecting me from him. One might even say she did it for his own good. He does not stop meowing. Am I exaggerating? Of course I am. He is not capable of uttering a constant, repeating, irritating meow every second, on the second, for all 86,000, for 100 seconds of the day. He is asleep approximately 16 to 18 hours of the day. He also spends 10 to 30 seconds per meal inhaling the variety of damp, brown, pate-like meat pastes we drop onto his ornate, flower-shaped ceramic cat dish, multiple times a day. Meow? He is capable of keeping up that unrelenting pace of meowing for several consecutive minutes, sometimes as many as 15 of them, my personal best, in resisting his unsiren-like call, bundled together into an episode of mind-eroding sonic torture. It is not loud. No, it is worse than loud. It is like a psychic lance to the skull, as though someone is tapping on the blackboard of my mind with chalk-dusted fingers, little scratches of nerve-wrenching shocks to my cerebellum. Over and over and over again. Meow, meow. I have ascertained some of the meanings of his belligerence. The purposes of these verbal assaults are many. Here are just a few of the reasons he has decided to employ this persuasion technique. He would like his breakfast approximately 3 hours, early 5 a.m. He would like a second serving of breakfast. He thinks he can convince whichever one of us didn't serve him breakfast that he hasn't had breakfast yet. He would like some of my breakfast. He would like lunch now. Yes, he has recently decided he would like lunch. He is thirsty. He, of course, has a massive cycling water bowl, but it seems he must announce when he is heading off for a drink. He would like an afternoon snack. He would like my afternoon snack. He is wondering if he can have some of our dinner. He would like his own dinner. He would like my wife to stop singing. He would like to be pet. He would like to be drawn into a cuddle and pet. He would like to be drawn into a cuddle and pet at 1 a.m. He would like to be drawn into a cuddle and pet at 3 a.m. He would like to have a post-breakfast cuddle. He would like to have a post-dinner cuddle. He would like to be elevated onto the bed. He would like to be de-elevated from the bed. Here are 2 things he does not utilize this skill for, warning us he is about to vomit a hairball or his dinner onto the bed. letting us know he has failed to reach the litter boxes and has instead opted to poop on the stairs. Meow, meow, meow. And finally, to explain the elevation points and the yet unmentioned and most egregious use of this newfound misuse of his vocal powers, I must explain that my desk, where I work most days, is in a cubby in our bedroom. Directly behind me is our marital bed, which, in his ascension and self-crowning as king of this domain, he has claimed as his royal throne. Yes, there are stairs installed at the end of the bed. Yes, he is perfectly capable of using them. But no, he does not lower himself to such indignities when his human-powered elevation device is present. To be clear, I am that human-powered elevation device. Not my wife. Not any other nearby human. Just me. Meow, 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 meow. And this leads us to the newest and most heart-melting, yet infuriating, implementation of his royal declarations, begging for my attention. Not just my attention, but a very specific form of attention that he bypasses my wife for entirely. She cannot perform this task, apparently. Only I can. Meow, 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 meow. This is entirely our fault. He was terrible at being a cat in the first place. He had no motivation to chase mice, strings, or even little laser lights. He never showed any interest in getting to high places like most other cats. In fact, the only time I've seen him try to ascend further than the couch was to get to the back of the couch, where my wife had left her bowl of ice cream unattended. He has always been spoiled, and we spoil him further, because there is no going back. He is nearly 17. This is who he is. A hedonistic loaf of fur. Meow, 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 meow. Even as I write this, he is pawing at the back of my chair, demanding that I perform my duty. That duty? Belly rubs. It's not just any old belly rubs. He likes when I grasp him firmly, but gently, press my head against him, and flop him down onto his side. A gesture that began out of pure frustration after being interrupted for the 7th time in an hour. I pressed him to the bed and gave him a fury-fueled belly rub as recriminations for his bad behavior, only to have him start purring. Loudly. The same way he used to purr for my wife when she would relent and let him cuddle her in the wee hours, a purr I once interpreted as a petulant, performative, dramatic cat version of, "See, fat man? She loves me more." Meow, 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 meow. Now, weeks later, I must repeat this ritual several times a day. I am not allowed on the bed with him. I must remain seated in my chair, leaning over him so he can paw at my shirt or attempt to clean my face. He either wants to be fully on his back, clinging to my arm with his front paws, or slightly on his side, kneading the air like a baker of invisible biscuits. Is it cute? Of course. Is it annoying and inconvenient? Almost exclusively. When I am in meetings, meow. When I am deep in a programming binge, meow. When I am desperately trying to maintain focus on a passage of prose, meow. When I am trying to watch course material for work, meow. Meow, 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 meow. It is slowly eroding away at my tether. I can feel each utterance pierce into the meaty noodles of my gray matter, like an infestation of furry caterpillars crawling amongst my neurons. And yet, how can I be angry with him? How can I be annoyed, his aged purr muscles sputtering as I stroke his belly, sounding like an ancient lawn tractor lurching back to life, the engine struggling to turn over even with the choke fully pulled out. The kind of noise you hear before some grizzled old man in a plaid shirt with a yellowed mustache says, "You can't just cold start him, gotta warm him up first." Sometimes I try to re-establish my grasp of reality by engaging these mewlings in conversation. Meow? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Meow, no. It's not time for dinner yet, buddy. Meow, you wouldn't talk to your mother like that. Meow, it's not okay to use that kind of language in this house. Meow, seriously, where did you learn that word? It wasn't from me. Is it working? I don't know. My wife and mother-in-law find these exchanges hilarious. They don't realize this is my last-ditch effort to keep my sanity. I don't think it's working. I am losing it. He never stops until he gets what he wants. Any sense of autonomy I had as an adult has rotted away. I no longer feel in control of my day, let alone the idea of having any say in my destiny. I have no choice here. I must comply. I can only choose to endure or comply. There is no relief from it. I have no mouth, but I must meow. Meow, 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 meow. Is this why we often jest about cats owning us? It doesn't feel so funny anymore. It feels horrifyingly, viscerally, unerringly true. I once believed I was terrorized by the other cat, her machinations and demands feeling pointed, but now, I wonder, have I been inherited, passed like a crown, from one master to the next? Is this orange monster my Joffrey? I can feel myself coming unglued at times, and the conversations take a darker turn. I'll turn to my wife and say, listen, I'm not 100% on the translation, but I'm pretty sure he's saying he's tired of it here, and he'd like to be taken to the shelter to find a more extravagant home, something more suited to his proclivities. Or, I'm pretty sure he just said it's time to cut the apron strings. He's ready to get out there, get a job, and find a place of his own. I think we should support him in gaining his independence. Or, Pico tells me he's interested in taking up lake swimming. She finds these less funny, especially since I've repeated them enough that she now warns of severe consequences if I even think such a thing. Do I think such a thing? Only in jest, I assure you. I may be going mad, but I am not a monster. I would never hurt this cat, or any other creature. I am gentle with them, and I love them more than people. Even this cat. This cat, who tests the limits of the love between us. I do love him. I do. I swear. Meow, 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 meow. I am just baffled. Annoyed, certainly, but mostly baffled. Why does he like this ritual so much? Is this play for him, or some elaborate humiliation ritual for me that I do not yet fully comprehend? If I stop and turn back to my work, he will wait a few minutes, then cry for me again, and when I return he has stood up again. So being knocked over is part of it, but why? Why is he so particular? What does it mean? What is this? Meow, 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 meow. I am resigned to my fate. I will act as his personal elevator, and I will serve him his rubs of the belly. I do, and will find mental fortitude and emotional sustenance as he enjoys my attention. I will let my heart melt as he grasps my arm, or when he paws my shirt, or when he makes his air biscuits. But why are the air biscuits he makes so slow and so delicious? Edit. Thank you all for the compliments on my writing and for the awards. I'll try to respond to as many comments as I can. Notable comment. Commenter 1. You say he's obsessed, but you wrote 25 paragraphs and 25 bullet points about him. Are you sure you're not the one who's really obsessed here? Reply. Is it obsession when someone is simply trying to make sense of the persistent, ongoing, and unrelenting source of their torment? If so, then yes, I am hopelessly obsessed with this tangerine terror. That said, your concern is fair and appreciated. Pico has lived a long, spoiled, and medically complicated life. Even before I was in the picture, he went through a health crisis so severe that even the vet thought he was beyond help. My wife stubbornly refused to give up on him, nursed him back to health, and they've been an inseparable and arguably codependent pair ever since. He's been pampered and coddled for years. He does have some arthritis and is on specialized food for urinary issues, but he's monitored and cared for, and nothing so far suggests an underlying new medical crisis. At this point, I think what's changing is less his health and more his focus. His vocalizations aren't exactly new. It's just that they used to be entirely aimed at my wife, and after Indy passed, he seems to have redirected that fixation onto me. Health-wise, he is what passes for normal for him. Me, on the other hand, that's another story. Some of the comments. My wife named him, and not so coincidentally it happens to be her favorite tea. As for your situation, I'd brace yourself. There's a distinct possibility you're in for a similar adventure. And if you ever find yourself in need of guidance on the proper belly rub technique, you know where to find me. I genuinely love that your inclination is him desperately trying to make good on some perceived debt of affection. Some version of Dear God, I have not fulfilled my obligations of affection to the fat man, and now, with the departing of our dearly beloved Indy, I must make amends. That is so wholesome. The world needs more people like you in it. Somebody says to close the door on Pico. I'm confused. Are you suggesting that a solid core door might somehow silence him? How? Am I to use this door as some kind of weapon? Or are you suggesting that I might be able to exile him from his domain? That I actually have a choice in where he decides to lay himself out? I admire your faith in my supposed powers of persuasion, but Pico is governed only by the paths of sunbeams, his stomach, and his own whims. On the rare occasions I've tried to exile him, he simply yelled and scratched until he was let back in. Remove him from the door, and he returns. Every time. Unperturbed. Relentless. I can imagine that a more solid door could dull the sound of his demands for entry, but would it stop them? Not in the least. As much as I wish a piece of wood could be my salvation, it's an idea that's been trialed, failed, and long since abandoned. But seriously, thank you for trying to help. I think the better question is, would I take well to button training? Do I really want to know what he's thinking? It might be safer to remain in my delusions. It's entirely possible that his true thoughts are far more harrowing than I assume. That said, I'll float the idea to my wife. Several people have suggested it. Part of me feels like at 17 he might be too old to learn new tricks. But then again, he has successfully trained me to give him belly rubs, so perhaps I need to rethink my assumptions. It really is something Pico doesn't seem to like. My wife has an incredible singing voice, and it's honestly one of my favorite things about her. I love when we're in the car together and she sings along. One of our first big date trips was to wine country, and one of the best parts of the whole weekend was the several hours we spent sharing a Spotify playlist and belting out every song. She just doesn't do it much around the house because Pico, along with his many other titles and responsibilities, has apparently appointed himself our resident music critic. For whatever reason, he does not like her singing. On getting another cat so Pico isn't alone. It's a really good thought, and I love how much everyone here wants Pico to be happy. There was a dog who passed a few years ago, and another cat in the house who passed more recently. We do our best not to leave him alone for long. We've talked about whether bringing in another cat might help, but given his age and physical limitations, we worry it could be more stressful than supportive. For now, we're just trying to make sure he gets all the attention and comfort he needs from us. I think suggesting that people who don't approach animal behavior the same way you do, or who prioritize their relationship with their pets differently, are weak-willed sets the wrong tone. It risks making people less open to your insights, even if those insights have value. That said, I actually share some of your perspective. Pico definitely understands that the rules are different between my wife and me. He knows he can practically stick his face in her bowl before she admonishes him, whereas if I make a certain noise, he knows to get his paw off the coffee table and avert his eyes from my food. Thank you very much. And just to clarify, I was writing my original post with deliberate exaggeration. I'm not actually losing my mind, and I do love this cat. The whole point was to poke fun at his bizarre ritual of demanding to be knocked over in order to get belly rubs. It's inconvenient, sure, but it's also endearing in its own ridiculous way. I've lived through 2 cats who have lost their hearing, and I found both experiences both heartbreaking and amusing. Having a cat scream affectionately at me is somehow more tolerable. No, his hearing is both intact and acute. If I had the equipment to measure it, I am certain that Pico has broken land speed records getting his chubby ginger but across the house the moment the can opener makes contact with a tin of tuna. Even though, after every time I empty and drain a can of tuna, I pour him a generous dish of tuna water, that does not stop him from incessantly meowing through the entire opening and draining process. Stories number 3. I shamed my obese roommate, and I don't feel bad. I 20F have been living with my roommate 21F for a few months now, and I honestly don't know how I'm supposed to deal with her anymore. When we first moved in together, she was sweet and friendly, but the longer we lived together, the more frustrated I get. To be blunt, she struck me as weird immediately. She is obese. That isn't the problem. I have plenty of fat friends, and I couldn't care less about someone's size. It's just her behavior that drives me insane. About a week after we moved in, I found her trying on my clothes without asking me. I asked her what she was doing, and she just laughed it off and said, "Wow, these look so tiny," and that I'm so lucky to be able to fit into cute clothes, which felt to me like a backhanded body shaming. She also started to make digs about my eating habits. Like if I'm having a salad, she'll say, "That's why you're so skinny," but in a tone that's not a compliment. I had a pizza a few nights ago, and she said, "Oh, are we treating ourselves finally? I don't even eat that healthy." On top of that, she acts totally helpless around the apartment. She doesn't cook, doesn't clean, and constantly expects me to pick up the slack. She'll say things like, "I can't do this. I'm too tired," after doing the bare minimum. It makes me feel like I have a child living with me instead of a roommate. She never cleans up after herself. The kitchen sink is always full of her dirty dishes, and if I don't eventually wash them, they just sit there. She eats my food and then pretends she doesn't remember doing it. He has no sense of boundaries. She'll come into my room uninvited just to sit on my bed and complain about her life. She makes fun of me for working out, saying it's obsessive, but then turns around and asks me to motivate her. Like WTF? Last night I snapped. I was going out to a bar with friends, and she told me I looked like a Minecraft skeleton. Funny, I cannot lie, and I told her I liked being skinny and wouldn't have it any other way, and that I've never had insecurity about my body. Bold face lie. I hate my body like every other girl, but I just wanted her to shut up. She absolutely lost her mind. She started screaming at me, crying, and calling me every name in the book. Then she said she was going to tell our mutual friends that I'm fat-phobic, so that I'd be the one who looks like the bully. She stormed into her room and slammed the door, and since then she's been giving me the silent treatment. Do I feel a little bad? Sure, because it was harsh. But honestly, it came from months of her boundary crossing, backhanded body shaming, and acting like I'm her personal maid. I've put up with so much and she refuses to respect me in any way. Now I feel like the bad guy even though I'm the one who's been pushed around this entire time. I don't even know how I'm supposed to live with her for the rest of the lease without losing my mind. Stories number 4. I am not allowing my daughter to wear her late mom's wedding dress even though I let my other daughter wear it. Hi Reddit. This is one of the hardest posts I've ever written, but I really need some outside perspective because my family is deeply divided on this. I'm a 56-year-old widowed father of 4. My oldest, Rachel 29F, then Abby 26F, my son Daniel 23M, and my youngest, Megan 21F. My late wife, Laura, passed away from cancer about 5 years ago. This whole issue centers around Abby, and more specifically, my late wife's wedding dress. Abby struggles. Abby was always my wild child. When she went off to college at 18, we thought she was finally finding herself. But by the end of her first semester, she had fallen into heavy drug use. She came back home a different person, paranoid, erratic, constantly asking for money. She dropped out of school, cycled in and out of bad crowds, and no matter how many times we tried to get her into rehab, she'd run away within days. When she was 20, after repeated thefts, screaming matches, and putting her siblings through hell, we had no choice but to kick her out. That decision tore me and Laura apart inside. But it was the only way to protect our other children. The breaking point, the absolute lowest point, came about a year later. By then, Laura had already been diagnosed with cancer, and every dollar and ounce of energy went toward her treatments. One day while we were at the hospital, Abby broke into our home. She didn't just steal cash, she ransacked everything. She took jewelry that had been passed down from Laura's mom, some family photos, and pawned them off. She left the doors wide open, and our 2 cats, Cleo and Oscar, ran away and were never found. When we got back and realized what had happened, Laura broke down in a way I'd never seen. She kept repeating, "She stole my memories. She stole my mother." That was it. Laura told me in no uncertain terms, Abby was to receive no further inheritance. Abby was not to borrow or keep any family heirlooms. And most importantly, under no circumstances should Abby be allowed to have her wedding dress. Laura was clear and I promised. Losing Laura. Laura passed away a year later. Abby didn't come to the funeral. She didn't call, didn't text, and didn't send flowers. She didn't even acknowledge it happened. Meanwhile, Rachel stepped up as the second mom figure for her younger siblings. When Rachel got married last year, she asked if she could wear Laura's wedding dress. I said yes. Seeing her walk down the aisle in it was one of the most emotional moments of my life. It felt like Laura was there. Abby was not invited to Rachel's wedding because Rachel simply couldn't forgive her. Abby comes back. Now, Abby has been clean for a year. She's been going to NA meetings, has a steady job, and is engaged to a man named Eric 28M. She called me recently and asked, "Dad, can I wear Mom's dress for my wedding?" I told her no. I reminded her of what Laura had said, of what happened, of the inheritance she already squandered. Abby blew up. She said, "It wasn't fair that Rachel got to wear it. She's her mother too. I'm punishing her for getting better instead of supporting her." She even threw in, "If Mom were here now, she'd want me to have it." And that hit like a knife because I know what Laura told me. The family reactions. Rachel 29F fully supports me. She said if I let Abby wear the dress, it would feel like a betrayal of everything Mom stood for. Daniel 23M is torn. He's proud Abby is clean, but he also remembers being 16 and finding his mom crying after Abby stole from us. Megan 21F actually thinks I should let Abby have it as a peace offering. She says people can change, and Mom would want forgiveness. Our extended family is even more split. Some say Abby lost all rights when she destroyed Laura's trust. Others say holding on to that promise is cruel now that Abby is trying to turn her life around. Where I stand, I told Abby no. I told her Laura's wedding dress is not just fabric. It's a symbol of everything Laura was, everything she stood for, and everything she explicitly asked me to protect. I suggested Abby buy her own dress, something brand new that represents her new life, clean and starting over. But she hung up on me. Now Abby isn't speaking to me. Rachel won't budge. Megan is furious at me, and Daniel is caught in the middle. And I'm sitting here wondering if I did the right thing, or if I've just pushed Abby away forever. So Reddit, am I wrong for keeping my promise to my late wife, even if it means breaking my daughter's heart? Update: my daughter and the wedding dress situation. Hey Reddit, it's been a few months since my original post. I wanted to give an update because things have escalated in ways I didn't expect, and I've gotten a lot of perspective from both you guys and my own family. After the call, after Abby hung up on me, we didn't talk for about 3 weeks. During that time, Rachel kept reminding me that I had to stand firm on Mom's wishes, while Megan kept pushing me to just give Abby this one chance. Daniel didn't say much, but I could tell he was exhausted from playing referee between his sisters. Finally, Abby texted me asking to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The coffee shop meeting. We met at a little diner we used to go to when the kids were younger. Abby showed up looking healthier than I'd seen her in years. Her hair was done, her eyes were clear, and she wasn't jittery. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was sitting across from my daughter, not the person addiction turned her into. She started with, "Dad, I know I hurt you. I know I hurt Mom. But I'm not that person anymore. Why can't you give me this one thing to feel close to her?" I told her the truth, that Mom had made me promise, and that it wasn't about punishing her, but about honoring Laura's wishes. Abby started crying quietly and said, "So I'll always be the daughter who wasn't good enough. Even when I do everything right now, I'll still be the one left out." That gutted me. The sibling divide. Not long after that, Abby went to Megan and Daniel directly. Megan doubled down, telling me later, "Dad, if you don't bend, you'll lose Abby forever." Rachel, on the other hand, called me furious. She said Abby was manipulating everyone and reminded me, "She didn't just screw up, Dad. She stole from Mom while she was dying. That's unforgivable. Don't let her guilt trip you." Daniel finally broke his silence. He called me one night and said, "Dad, I'm proud of Abby. But Rachel's right too. No matter what, this won't end without someone feeling betrayed. Either Abby feels excluded forever, or Rachel feels like Mom's words don't matter." And honestly, he was right. The wedding drama. Fast forward. Abby's wedding is in 3 months. She invited all of us, but Rachel immediately refused to go if Abby got the dress. She told me, "If she wears that dress, I'll walk out. I can't stand by and watch Mom's last wishes be thrown away." Abby sent me another message saying she'd go no contact if I didn't relent. She said, "You already gave Rachel everything. Why can't you give me something? Why do I always have to be the black sheep?" Meanwhile, Megan announced she's planning to stand up as Abby's maid of honor whether I like it or not. And she's furious at Rachel for being cold and judgmental. Where I'm at now, I'm stuck. If I give Abby the dress, I break a promise to my late wife and alienate Rachel. If I hold firm, Abby may cut me out of her life entirely. I even considered a compromise, taking the dress and having a seamstress create a smaller piece of fabric from it, a patch or a handkerchief that Abby could carry with her at the wedding. That way she'd still have a piece of Mom, without undermining Laura's wishes. But when I floated the idea, Rachel said absolutely not. Mom said a no. Not a shred. Not a scrap. And Abby said it wasn't enough, that she wanted the whole dress. So now I'm watching my kids turn on each other in a way that makes me feel like I'm losing them all. Reflection. This whole thing has made me realize something painful. Laura's dress isn't just fabric, it's a battlefield. It's holding years of grief, resentment, betrayal, and longing inside it. And maybe there's no version of this story where everyone gets peace. Right now, I'm leaning towards sticking to Laura's words, because that was my wife and my promise. But the cost might be losing Abby again. And the hardest part? After years of praying for Abby to get clean, she finally has. And I might still lose her anyway. So Reddit, if you were me, do you stick to your late wife's last wishes, or bend for the sake of reconciliation? Second update. After Abby's wedding. Hey Reddit, I didn't expect to be back here, but so many of you asked for an update, and honestly, I need a place to vent. The wedding happened. It was a lot. Leading up to the wedding, after my last post, things at home got more tense. Rachel doubled down on her stance. She told me, if Abby shows up in mom's dress, I'm done. Don't even call me when it blows up. Meanwhile, Abby kept pushing. She texted me almost daily, guilt-tripping me with things like, you let Rachel feel like she was the favorite. You let Megan be your soft spot. I've always been the one who was pushed out. This is my chance to feel included, and you won't give it to me. Megan sided harder with Abby, even calling Rachel cruel for not being more forgiving. Daniel just kept saying, Dad, whatever you decide, I'll back you, but I'm tired of the fighting. At one point, I nearly gave in. I was so close to saying, fine, take the dress, just to stop the emotional tug-of-war. But then I sat down with Laura's old journal. I hadn't opened it since she passed. Right there in her handwriting, if Abby ever asks for the dress, don't give it to her. She's made her choices. I want her to heal, but not at the expense of the rest of us. I cried that night, but I knew what I had to do. The big confrontation. 2 weeks before the wedding, Abby came over. She asked again. I told her no. Not angrily, not coldly, just firmly. She exploded. So I'll never stop paying for my mistakes? Even when I'm clean. Even when I'm trying. You're choosing mom's ghost over me. She stormed out, screaming that I was a heartless old man who only loved the perfect kids. Rachel called me later and said she was proud of me for standing firm. Megan called me the same night to say I was breaking the family apart. Daniel? He just sighed and said, I wish mom were here. She'd know what to do. God, did that cut deep. The wedding day, I went. Rachel refused to go. She said it was too much for her mental health. Megan was maid of honor, and Daniel was a groomsman. Abby didn't wear Laura's dress. She ended up buying a second-hand gown from a boutique. It was simple but elegant. Honestly, she looked beautiful, radiant, even. For a moment, I forgot about all the conflict. I just saw my daughter happy. But then came the speeches. During hers, Abby said something that stung like a knife. I never thought my family would actually be here for me. Some still aren't. But I'm grateful for the ones who chose love instead of grudges. Everyone clapped, but I knew that was aimed at me, and at Rachel. After the ceremony, Abby hugged Megan and Daniel like they were heroes. When she came to me, it was quick, stiff. No warmth. The fallout. Rachel hasn't spoken to Abby since. She sent me a text saying, if she wants forgiveness, she needs to do more than cry about a dress. Megan is fully Team Abby. She called me rigid and said mom wouldn't want me holding on to bitterness. Which hurts, because mom was the one who told me not to budge. Daniel is torn. He checks in on me, but also sees Abby often. He said, Dad, she's trying. She's not perfect, but she's not the person who stole from us anymore. Abby has gone low contact with me. We text occasionally, but she keeps things short. No, love you, Dad. No, how are you? Just surface-level updates. Where I'm at. I thought the wedding would be a chance to rebuild bridges. Instead, it just underlined the cracks in our family. I stuck to Laura's wishes. I honored the promise I made her. But in doing so, I feel like I've lost Abby all over again. I can't lie, seeing her walk down the aisle, clean, smiling, in a dress that wasn't her mom's. I felt proud, but I also felt the weight of everything we've lost. The cats, the heirlooms, the trust, and now, maybe my daughter again. I keep wondering, did I make the right call? Or did I let a piece of fabric matter more than reconciliation? So that's where we're at. A fractured family, a wedding in the books, and me, just a dad trying to navigate grief, loyalty, and forgiveness. Final update, years later. Hey Reddit, it's been almost 5 years since I first posted about Abby asking for her late mom's wedding dress. A lot has happened since then, and enough of you stuck with this story that I felt like I owed it to share the conclusion. This will be long, messy, and very real. Where things stood after the wedding. After Abby's wedding, my family was in pieces. Rachel, oldest, refused to reconcile. She had been mom's rock during her last years, and in her mind, Abby's betrayal, the theft, the cats, skipping the funeral was unforgivable. She thought I was weak for even attending Abby's wedding. Megan, youngest, doubled down on being Abby's biggest defender. She argued that we all made mistakes, and Abby's sobriety should be enough proof she deserved forgiveness. Daniel, my son, was the peacemaker, caught between the sisters. He stayed close with everyone, but constantly felt the strain. As for me, I felt like a referee in a game nobody wanted to play. I was trying to keep Laura's wishes, hold the family together, and not drown in guilt all at once. Year 1. Silence and stubbornness. That first year after the wedding was brutal. Rachel and Megan weren't speaking. Family gatherings were cut in half. Thanksgiving was with Rachel and her kids. Christmas was with Megan and Abby. Daniel floated between both camps. I felt like a divorced parent shuffling between households, except it was my kids dividing themselves. Abby barely reached out. Once in a while, I'd get a short text. "We're doing good. Hope you're well." That was it. No calls. No visits. I wanted to reach out more, but every time I tried, I heard Laura's voice in my head. "Don't let her manipulate you again." So I kept my distance. Year 2. Cracks in the wall. In the second year, things started to shift. Abby and her husband, Mark, welcomed their first baby, a little girl named Ella. And here's the kicker. Abby called me the night she went into labor. Not Rachel. Not Megan. Not even Daniel. Me. I drove to the hospital and was one of the first to hold Ella. And in that moment, something cracked in me. Abby was still my daughter. No matter what she'd done, no matter how messy the past was, she was still mine. And she had just made me a grandfather. Rachel, of course, refused to visit. Megan rushed over the next day and cried holding Ella. For the first time in years, Abby hugged me tightly. Really hugged me. She whispered, "I'm sorry for everything." I didn't know if she meant the dress, the theft, or the years of pain. But it was the first apology that felt real. Year 3, the family meeting. By year 3, Abby and Mark invited everyone over for Ella's birthday. Rachel didn't want to go, but Daniel convinced her. I think he told her, "Don't make Ella pay for Abby's mistakes." It was awkward at first. Rachel wouldn't even look at Abby. Megan was defensive, waiting for a fight. Abby was nervous, trying to play hostess. And then Ella, completely oblivious to the tension, toddled over to Rachel with a cupcake and said, "For you, Annie." That broke something in Rachel. She teared up, hugged Ella, and later that night, hugged Abby for the first time in years. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't full forgiveness. But it was something. Year 4, the turning point. Abby had a relapse scare. Not a full relapse. But she admitted to me that she almost slipped after a fight with Mark. Instead of using, she called me. Me. The same dad she once called a heartless old man. We sat on my porch until 3 a.m., just talking. She told me, "I'll regret what I did to this family for the rest of my life. I can't undo it. But I don't want to be remembered only for that." For the first time, I believed her. Rachel still kept her guard up, but even she started softening after seeing how Abby was as a mom. Megan felt vindicated. She kept saying, "See? I told you she could change." Year 5, the healing. Now here we are, 5 years later. Abby and Mark have 2 kids, Ella 5 and James 2. They live about 30 minutes away, and I see them often. Abby has stayed clean. She's steady, grounded, and actually volunteers at a recovery center. Rachel and Abby are speaking again. They're not best friends, but they text, share pictures of the kids, and can be in the same room without daggers in their eyes. Megan feels less like she has to defend Abby now. She's just her sister again. Daniel, God bless him, is relieved. He told me last Thanksgiving, "Dad, this is the first holiday in 10 years that doesn't feel like walking on eggshells." And me? I've forgiven Abby. Not in a pretend nothing happened way, but in a way that allows me to love her without conditions. She broke my trust, broke Laura's heart, and tore this family apart for years. But she's also my daughter, and I've seen her fight like hell to rebuild her life. About the dress, I know some of you will ask. No, Abby never got Laura's dress. I still have it, carefully preserved. But here's the twist. A few months ago, Abby asked if she could have a piece of it. Not the whole gown, just a small square of fabric, to sew into Ella's future wedding dress one day. I said yes, because it wasn't about the dress anymore. It was about legacy, healing, and finally letting go of the bitterness. Final thoughts. So, was I the asshole for not letting Abby wear the dress back then? Maybe to some people, yes. Maybe to Abby at the time, yes. But looking back, I think it was the right call. Abby didn't need the dress to prove she was worthy of forgiveness. She needed to put in the work, stay clean, and rebuild the relationships she broke. And she did. Today, I have my family back. Not the same as before, scarred, a little dented, but still standing. Laura would have wanted that. And when I look at my grandkids, I know she's somewhere smiling, proud of all of us for not giving up on each other. That's it. The final update. Thanks for listening through all the messy years. Sometimes families don't heal. Sometimes they do. Mine did. Slowly, painfully, but beautifully. Stories number 5. My brother is ruining his life. So, I 28F, Let's call me Emily, have a younger brother, Jake 22M. And honestly, I'm terrified he's ruining his entire life before it even really starts. Jake got married young. He was 20 at the time, to Megan 26F. She's older than him, and honestly, she has a solid job. She's been nothing but supportive of him. But even she's drowning with how things are going now. Back in 2022, they decided to buy a house. A $200,000 home with a $2,000 per month mortgage. My parents Tom and Linda and I all told him it was way too much for them at the time. But Jake, being Jake, just waved us off saying, "It'll be fine. I've got this. Don't worry about me." He didn't even sit down to do a real budget. No math. No what-ifs. Just vibes. And the vibes have not been vibing. The bad decisions piling up. Within months of moving into the house, Jake decided he needed not one, but 2 trucks. Both used, but each around $20,000. And of course, that means full coverage insurance on both. I asked him, "Jake, why the hell do you need 2 trucks? You don't even have a steady year-round job." His answer? "It'll be fine. Don't worry about it." This has become his catchphrase. The kicker? Jake works a seasonal job. He makes decent money when he's working. At one point, it was close to $100,000 during the busy season. But when winter comes, he's off. No income. No backup plan. No side job. Nothing. Just chilling, drinking, and enjoying his time off. The foreclosure scare. Last year, things got so bad they were literally one day away from foreclosure. My parents called me in tears because they didn't know how to help him anymore. Jake and Megan went crawling to my grandparents Harold and Susan, bawling on their couch, begging for help. And of course, because my grandparents are kind and don't want to see their grandson lose his house, they gave him $7,000 to cover the late payments. But it wasn't a gift. It was a loan. The deal was that Jake would pay them back little by little every week until it was done. That was 6 months ago. And guess how much he's paid back? $200. One time. That's it. The camper. So last night, Jake drops a bomb on me. He proudly tells me, "Guess what? I bought a camper. $2,000. It's awesome. We're going to take it out next summer." I just stared at him. Like, are you kidding me? You're $7,000 in debt to our grandparents. You've got a mortgage you can barely pay, 2 truck payments, insurance, bills, and winter is right around the corner when you won't even have an income. So the solution is to buy a camper? And not even at the beginning of summer when you could at least use it. No, at the end of summer, when it's going to sit in the driveway, rotting, while bills pile up. The partying and priorities. This is Jake's pattern. He constantly prioritizes partying, alcohol, and fun stuff over basic responsibilities. His friends always come first. Beer always comes first. Then the bills. Megan, to her credit, tries. She works full-time. She's the one keeping the lights on most of the time. But she enables him too because she doesn't want to fight constantly. And now, to make matters even messier, they're actively on fertility medication because they're trying to have a baby. A baby, when they can barely keep themselves afloat. I honestly feel sick thinking about it. Where I'm at, I love my brother. He's my little brother, and I'd do anything for him. But I carry so much worry. I'm terrified that he's going to lose the house, lose the vehicles, ruin his marriage, and end up dragging Megan and any future kids into financial ruin with him. My parents are heartbroken. They've already bailed him out of smaller stuff, but they drew the line after the foreclosure scare. They're tired of watching him make the same choices over and over. I don't know what to do anymore. Should I try to sit him down and have a serious intervention-style talk? Should I let him hit rock bottom and figure it out himself? Or should I step back completely? Because honestly, I'm exhausted just watching him spiral. I don't want to see him crash, but I also know I can't save him. Edit. Adding clarification. For anyone asking, no, this isn't fake. They married in 2022, bought the house right after. Megan has a decent job, steady income. Jake's seasonal job was amazing money at one point, like I said. Almost $100K during the busy season. But work in his industry has slowed down across the board. He's not getting those big paychecks anymore, but he still spends like he is. I'm scared that if something doesn't change, the next update will be me telling you he lost everything. Update. 8 months later, my brother is ruining his life. Hey Reddit, it's Emily again. A while back I vented here about my younger brother Jake, 22M, making one bad financial decision after another while dragging his wife Megan, 26F, along for the ride. I thought I'd give an update because, unfortunately, things have only gotten messier. the camper and the winter crash. So remember how Jake bought that camper last summer? Yeah, it sat in the driveway for months, untouched, while winter rolled in. When winter hit, Jake did the same thing he always does, stopped working and just chilled at home. Except this time, there was no extra money saved from his seasonal job because business had slowed down significantly. That camper payment, yes, he financed it, became just another bill on top of the mortgage, trucks, insurance, and utilities. And the predictable happened. They fell behind on mortgage payments again. Megan finally reached out to me in tears around Thanksgiving, telling me she couldn't keep doing this. She was working full-time, doing side shifts when she could, and still couldn't keep their heads above water because Jake refused to even get a part-time job for the winter. The confrontation. So I sat Jake down. Just me and him. No parents, no grandparents. I told him straight up, "You're 22, but you're acting like a teenager who just got his first paycheck. You've got a wife, bills, and adult responsibilities. You can't just buy toys and party while Megan works herself into the ground. You need to get a job, any job, this winter. Otherwise, you're going to lose everything." His response, word for word, "Emily, relax. Things always work out. I'll be fine." It made me want to scream. He's so convinced that somehow life is just going to bend to his will. Our grandparents stepped back. After the first near foreclosure, my grandparents Harold and Susan swore they wouldn't bail him out again. And they stuck to it this time. My parents Tom and Linda also drew a hard boundary. No more financial help. Jake tried to guilt trip them, saying things like, "So you'd rather see your own son homeless?" But my parents stood firm. They told him, "You're not homeless. You have options. Get another job, sell a truck, cut expenses. But we're not funding your lifestyle anymore." It was brutal, but I respected them for sticking to it. Megan reaches her breaking point. Here's where things get heavy. Megan called me again in January, sobbing. She told me she was exhausted, not just financially, but emotionally. She said she felt like Jake's mother, not his wife. She was tired of covering bills while he bought beer and video games. And then she dropped the bomb. "I don't even want to keep trying for a baby anymore. How could I bring a child into this mess?" That broke my heart. I knew Megan wanted kids badly. For her to give up on that dream because of Jake's irresponsibility, it says everything. The fallout. By February, they were 2 months behind on their mortgage again. This time, Megan refused to cover for Jake. She stopped taking on side shifts, stopped paying extra bills, and told him flat out, "If you don't get your act together, I'm done." Jake, predictably, thought she was bluffing. He didn't change a thing. In March, Megan moved out. She packed a few essentials, took her car, and went to stay with a friend. She told Jake she was serious. No more enabling. No more pretending everything was okay. Where things stand now, Jake is still in the house, but it's hanging by a thread. The camper? Already listed for sale, but nobody wants it. One of the trucks is broken down, and he doesn't have the money to fix it. He's drinking more. Every time I go over, there's beer cans everywhere. Megan is staying with her friend and hasn't moved back in. She told me she's considering separation if he doesn't change. Jake keeps telling everyone, she'll be back. She always comes back. But honestly, I don't think she will this time. My feelings. I'm torn between heartbreak and anger. Jake is my little brother. I love him. I want him to succeed. But watching him self-destruct while dragging everyone else down with him is exhausting. I've cried over this more times than I can count. I've begged him to change. But at this point, I feel like I'm talking to a wall. He just doesn't care enough to do better. My parents are devastated, but holding firm on boundaries. My grandparents are heartbroken, but refuse to be manipulated again. Megan is gone, and honestly, I don't blame her one bit. And me? I've realized I can't fix Jake. The only person who can fix Jake is Jake. And until he's ready, nothing any of us say will matter. Final update. 3 years later, my brother was ruining his life. Hey Reddit, it's Emily again. I didn't think I'd be back here, but a few of you asked me to update if things ever changed with my younger brother Jake, now 25M, and his wife Megan 29F. Well, it's been 3 years since my first post, and a lot has happened. Some of it was heartbreaking, some of it hopeful, but I guess that's life. The collapse. Not long after my last update, Jake's house finally went into foreclosure. He'd been living paycheck to paycheck when he even had a paycheck, and simply stopped making mortgage payments. Megan had already left at that point, so it was just Jake rattling around in that house with his broken truck, half-empty camper, and mounting bills. The foreclosure notice came in late summer, and by winter the bank officially took it. I'll never forget the day I drove past the house and saw his stuff piled at the curb. Jake was sitting on the porch drinking a beer at 2 in the afternoon, just numb. That was probably the lowest point I'd ever seen him. Megan's choice. Megan officially filed for divorce a few months later. She was done, and honestly, no one blamed her. She moved in with her sister, focused on her career, and I've heard through mutual friends that she's now remarried and expecting a baby. I'm genuinely happy for her. She deserved stability and love, not to be the only adult in her marriage. Jake, on the other hand, took the divorce hard. He spiraled even more into drinking and bouncing between short-term jobs. He stayed on friends' couches for a while, then eventually ended up moving back in with my parents after he couldn't keep a roof over his head. Tough love from the family. This was the turning point. My parents, Tom and Linda, laid down rules. No drinking in their house. He had to get and keep a job if he wanted to stay. He had to start paying off some of his debts instead of pretending they didn't exist. At first, Jake was furious. He stormed out more than once, staying away for a week or two, only to crawl back when he ran out of money. My dad especially stayed firm. We love you, but we're not going to watch you drown yourself and take us with you. The turning point. After about a year of hitting rock bottom, something finally clicked for Jake. Maybe it was losing Megan. Maybe it was the foreclosure. Maybe it was waking up hangover on my parents' couch one too many times. But he finally agreed to go to rehab. It wasn't easy. He relapsed once after a few months, but the second time he really stuck with it. He's been sober now for a little over a year. Jake also started working steadily. Not the big seasonal money he used to brag about, just a reliable job at a construction company. It doesn't pay six figures, but it's consistent, and that stability has done wonders for him. Where he is now, Jake rents a small apartment with a roommate. It's nothing fancy, but it's his. He sold one of the trucks, the broken one, for scrap, and the other is still running. The camper is long gone. He's still in debt, but he's finally making slow, steady payments. No more borrowing from grandparents. No more begging my parents for bailouts. He's actually managing his own bills, and for the first time in years, I see a little pride in him. He and Megan are obviously over, and I don't think they'll ever reconnect, but Jake has accepted that. He told me recently, I messed that up. I wasn't a husband, I was a kid. I had to lose everything to get it through my thick head, and you know what? Hearing him say that felt like closure. My feelings now. When I wrote my original post, I was angry. I was scared. I was watching my little brother set his life on fire and couldn't do anything about it. Now, 3 years later, I still feel some of that sadness, but I also feel relief. Jake is far from perfect. He's rebuilding from scratch, and it'll probably take years before he's financially stable. But he's finally on the right path. He's sober, working, paying bills, and living like an adult. That's more than I dared to hope for back then. As for me, I've learned that you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Sometimes all you can do is set boundaries, step back, and wait for them to realize it themselves. It's heartbreaking, but it's the truth. TLDR final update. House was foreclosed. Megan divorced him and has since remarried expecting a baby. Jake hit rock bottom, lived with parents, then went to rehab. He's now sober for over a year, working steadily, paying his debts, and renting an apartment. Things aren't perfect, but for the first time in years, he's moving forward instead of backwards. And that's where the story ends. My brother didn't turn into the success story we all wanted overnight, but he didn't lose his life either. He's still here, fighting, and that's enough. Thanks to everyone who listened to me vent through the chaos. Writing it all out helped me feel less alone.